Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is attempting to return to the political scene. He's announced he's running for mayor of New York. But will his controversial past prevent a comeback for him in the Big Apple? Let's get to Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller live for us in New York. Good afternoon, Alex. So tell us, what lane is Cuomo trying to carve in this race?
Well, look, he says that he's trying to bring progressivism back in the way that he believes that it should be. Now, he's been relatively quiet since he left office, but no more. He put out a 17-minute video on Saturday, essentially saying that he believes New York is in trouble. Listen.
And we know that today our New York City is in trouble. You feel it when you walk down the street and try not to make eye contact with a mentally ill homeless person, or when the anxiety rises up in your chest as you're walking down into the subway. You see it in the empty storefronts, the graffiti, the grime, the migrant influx, the random violence. The city just feels threatening.
He's already put out a bunch of proposals, including increasing the police force, increasing the number of police on city subways, specialized units. He also wants to see increased mental health and substance abuse access for people here in the city, but he namely talks about the issue that we have here in the city right now with the homeless population. Of course, Cuomo is going to have to overcome a number of scandals that we saw during his governorship, of course, relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and the underreporting of nursing home deaths, but more importantly, the sexual harassment allegations. New York's Attorney General Letitia James, in her investigation, corroborated 11 different stories about this. One of his accusers recently dropped a lawsuit. He sued her right back. But another one of his accusers, Lindsay Boylan, wrote an op-ed in Vanity Fair saying that she believes New Yorkers deserve better. He says that he denies the allegations, but says that he has learned from his mistakes.
Alex, this is going to be really an interesting race, isn't it? Because you got Cuomo, one of the biggest names in New York politics. He is challenging a sitting mayor, Eric Adams, who's got all kinds of baggage he's dealing with. And then you got other people. This is going to be a really crowded race, if nothing else.
Yeah, it is an incredibly crowded race, which, by the way, I should say the New York primary always really is, but it is hotly contested this time, particularly because we have a sitting mayor right now who is a Democrat and is running again. Eric Adams has continued to rebuff calls to resign, but let's look really at how many people are running. There are 10 people running so far, and the polling really shows that Cuomo is ahead right now. They showed he was ahead even before he ran or jumped into this race. So in February, there was polling that showed him at 38 points with Adams at 10%. Another poll in January showed him at 33%, Adams at 10% there. Both of them, 20 to 24%, showed that people have not really made up their minds yet relating to who they are going to vote for. I also want to note, Patrick, New York City has ranked choice voting, which continues to complicate this already very complicated race.
This is this jungle primary. It's like anybody can sort of emerge as a winner all of a sudden. But as you mentioned, Adams really is remarkably unpopular. That's going to be tough for him. How are people responding, Alex, to this news of Cuomo jumping into this race?
You know, it'll be interesting to see because there are so many candidates, and so some of the lanes that you might see, a more progressive candidate, a more moderate candidate. There are multiple people in all of those lanes, so they could end up splitting the vote, really. When you look at some of these people, most, if not all of them, have held some form of office here in the city or representing the city on the state level. And so name recognition is important here, but also it's the local groups that these people really need to get to. But the big leaders here, Governor Hochul, she's remained relatively quiet. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, both of the senators, they've really not said much. But one thing I thought that was really interesting in his 17-minute video and in his remarks, he's talked about his willingness to work with anyone, as he said, even mentioning President Trump in that 17-minute video saying that they've worked together in the past. It's a sign that while New York City is still very heavily Democratic, it has gotten redder as of the last election, and the city has elected Republican mayors in the past, independent mayors in the past, so you can see that he's still catering towards that audience as well.
That is interesting, Alex, because you remember in 2020 we were covering COVID. Cuomo was like the sort of chief antagonist at one point for Trump. You know, they're almost comparing ratings during these news conferences. So you're saying things have maybe changed a little bit.
A little bit. It's interesting to see the spin all these years later that suddenly they have worked together on this, but it looks like Cuomo understands that Trump is more popular now than he was when they were feuding before, and so that's likely part of his calculus here. When you hear him talk in this video about the migrant crisis, again, he talks about immigration as a positive thing for the city. He talks about it as, you know, this big melting pot, something to be proud of, but he also talks about it as an issue for the city, again, highlighting really where the city is at in this crisis, in the crisis that we've dealt with the crimes on city subways, saying essentially that the way that they've done it is not enough, railing against the decision to cut police funding, to cut the police force, and talking about how people he believes don't even want to be police officers right now. Again, looking at the way that the city has felt about the crime, despite the fact that the numbers actually show that crime is down, the feeling in this city, particularly when you're talking again about those subways, is that crime is up, even though the numbers show that it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, we showed that clip in the video, sort of going down into the subway, some scary stuff there. So
yeah,
it's going to be an interesting race. National correspondent Alex Miller reporting for us live in New York. Alex, thanks.